It never occurred to me that someone's job is to map the ocean floor, a briny cartographer, like pirates looking for lost treasure at the bottom of the sea. Turn left at the coral reef, look for the third bivalve mollusk, and there's the treasure. No, and I now know this because I found someone who really does map the ocean floor. His name is Bob Wallace. So Bob, when we quite by chance met, you said, among other things, I'm trying to remember exactly your wording, but I think you said something along the lines of, I map the ocean floor.
Right.
And I immediately, 3 or 4 thoughts collision in my head at that point, and I immediately thought of some guy like in a scuba suit with a flashlight and a waterproof pencil and maybe some surveyor gear. Turn left at the coral reef and you'll get to that sort of idiotic thing. But it was genuine.
If it helps, my parents still don't know what I do for a living.
Well, that does help. It makes me feel less of a buffoon. So I've done a little work since we met. And by way of introduction to the people listening to this, if I said to you the phrase multi-beam sonar data, does that resonate with you?
Yeah.
And why? Tell people why that does.
That resonates because that's the primary tool that I use to do my kind of work, the seafloor mapping work. We have other sonars that we use as well, but multi-beam is kind of our go-to sonar for full bottom coverage seafloor mapping. And when I say full bottom coverage, I mean we go up and down track line lanes and we measure every square foot of the seafloor where we go.
Why do we need that?
You and I don't need it, but industry needs it and government needs it and engineers and scientists need it when they want to look at very high resolution pictures of the seafloor for whatever engineering tasks are at hand or inspection tasks. All right.
Another thing that immediately occurred to me when you told me what you did was the word cartography, which I think means map making. Mm-hmm. Of course, I thought of cartography as dry land map making. Mm-hmm. And I found out that people can major in college in cartography. Can you specifically major in marine cartography?
Sure. Yeah, there are programs now. I don't think there were any that existed when I was in college, but there are a few now that you can take a 4-year program in hydrographic science, and there's at least 1 or 2 master's programs in hydrographic science.
Did you major in, so what would you have majored in, marine science?
I was in marine science, fisheries specifically, which has no application to what I do for a living. All of my training was on the job.
When I was 18, my primary focus wasn't on what my career could be, and it's not something I knew from the time I was 10.
Right.
I was worried about what kind of cereal I was going to buy. Sure. What made you interested in marine science? Is this something you were fascinated in as a kid, or?
I got pretty lucky as a kid. As a 15-year-old, I got an opportunity to work on a schooner. You remember a Mystic Whaler that used to tie up down here? I worked on a similar kind of boat out of Newport. So 15 to 16 summer, 16 to 17 summer, and so on, into college during summers. A couple trips down to the Caribbean and back during the winters. And, it's one of those things for me that I was hooked on boats at that point. My parents wanted me to go to college, so I did. So I ended up choosing, we'll keep them happy with college, keep me happy with marine science related course.
Where'd you go?
URI.
All right, listen to this. So you work for a company called Ocean Surveys.
Yes.
All right. I looked at y'all's website, and you guys offer things like wave monitoring, thermal plume monitoring, benthic habitat documentation, hazmat support systems or operations, magnetometer surveys, beach profiling. Do you do all of these things?
Yeah.
You can do all of that stuff.
I mean, and we each of us at Ocean Surveys has our specialty service offering or expertise, where I would do more of the multi-beam and side scan sonar surveys. And we have people with degrees in oceanography who are more focused on the thermal plume mapping or the current monitoring or the wave monitoring. But we're all kind of trained to do at least to do the field work in the other disciplines, and then let the guys and the girls who have the degrees and the experience processing the data and presenting that data, they might take over the project once the data had been returned to the office.
To me, this suggests several sub-disciplines that, as a major in journalism, I didn't have to worry about. It was like, here's how to write the proper lead and that sort of thing. But you've got hydrography, geophysics, navigation, oceanography, all of these things. I mean, did it take you like 11 years to get your degree?
Well, the degree, no, that was 4 years, right? But the way I try to frame it with the newer employees is we're going to just we're going to throw everything at you. And the learning is going to be at a very fast pace. And then we're going to try and kick you out of the nest and give you a boat and give you $500,000 worth of equipment and a truck and send you down the highway to run your own job. And that's a couple of years off of just immersive training in all the different disciplines that we support.
For a brief while in college, I decided, because it was such a profitable field, that I would major in philosophy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that didn't work out for me because I ran into logic, and that meant mathematics, and that meant you flunk out.
Right.
Because this is so wide-ranging, what you do, was there some where you went, oh, no, I've got to master this discipline, and that's going to be rough for me?
No.
So you can do all of that stuff easily.
Well, everything's challenging. Every job that I go out on, I'm challenged. The keeping up with the technology is challenging. Keeping up with the software is challenging. We kind of get our young employees, our engineering or marine science discipline, but it doesn't prepare them for the day-to-day of what we do, meaning running the boat, calibrating the equipment. That's all on the job. And it was on the job for me as well.
Do you ever go in the water?
Seldom. And, we actually don't dive anymore as a rule, but we used to at a point.
Really?
But the nice thing is that for the commercial, we would do the fun diving. I've dove for work in Puerto Rico and Trinidad and Tobago and the Bahamas. Not too hard.
No.
And then when it's Long Island Sound or the Gulf of Maine, we'll hire a commercial diving company to support the work.
What would make it necessary to do that about those bodies of water?
Colder, less visibility, just more strenuous diving.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an important context, and I want you to try to grasp it. Like every year, my wife and I, like billions of other people who probably should be doing something more important, watch Jaws at least once.
Yeah, good policy.
And there's that part where Richard Dreyfuss, as the marine biologist on his own superbly equipped boat, uses, I guess, sonar to try to determine where a shark is. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see anything on your sonars that make you go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like what?
We've seen rays, I'm not going to say a manta ray, but that's the kind of ray I'm talking about. Yeah. We've seen rays, we've seen sharks. Dolphins are kind of a thorn in our side sometimes.
Why would that be? They're all so lovable.
They are lovable and they're cool to watch, but they love the sonars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we do certain jobs where you have to have a certain percentage of uninterrupted coverage. And when the dolphins come right up to the sonar, and I'm talking between you and I distance.
We're 4 feet away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their relative distance to the sonar creates a massive acoustic shadow. So if this is the sonar, the microphone here, and my hand is the dolphin 2.5 feet away, all of that sound energy gets blocked by the dolphin, and behind it, there's no data. So it's an acoustic shadow. So if you have a bunch of dolphins frolicking next to your sonar transducer, you have to usually go around and retake the data. Or big balls of fish, or balls of shrimp, like down in the Gulf of Mexico, certain time of day, the shrimp come up off the bottom, and we can't see the bottom clearly any longer with the acoustics.
Do you have, now you mentioned like Trinidad and going to the Caribbean and stuff. Are there certain jobs you like because you know you're going to eat better in that part of the world?
Heck yeah.
Like where? Like, I mean, is it obvious or?
Yeah, I think it probably is.
Yeah.
Like I was in Pensacola this past fall, or if you go down to, we work down in New Orleans area a lot. Right. We work in South Louisiana, but you always have to fly in and out of New Orleans. Right. So you're always going to get some char-grilled oysters on your trip.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know, yeah, there's plenty of places. And if you go to Jersey, there's plenty of, those are usually contaminated sediment type support jobs. That's the way it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of we spend a lot of time in the northern New Jersey. But you know you're going to have a great egg sandwich in the morning, right?
And the reason I went off on that tangent is because you talked about the shrimp on the Gulf floor. And I've been here 25 years, and I've come to appreciate a lot of the different oysters in the colder water, northern, but there's still nothing to me like a Gulf oyster. And so, yeah, that would be all right. So you have sort of a romantic approach to how you got into this, you know, summering on boats and stuff like that. While I was working in an ice cream parlor in Dallas.
Right.
I don't have much romantic, although I like ice cream.
Yeah.
But you were working on a boat, going to exotic places, and so there's a romantic, to me anyway, inference about that. Has anything about your job, just the more, maybe just the technology and the data, taken any of the romantic shine off of the sea for you?
No.
You still love the sea?
Love it. And I come home from a 10-day job, and first thing I do is get on my boat and in the right season.
Yeah.
And go out onto Fisher's Island Sound and enjoy the sound.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
Did you like Jaws?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Did you read Moby Dick or anything like that?
I read Moby Dick, I think, in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it resonate in any way?
Yes. I love those kind of tales of the sea.
Huh.
And more recently, let's say like, Philbrick wrote one.
I can't remember that.
Maybe it's In the Heart of the Sea?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Philbrick did
he
write that, I think.
Yeah, that was a great movie. Don't watch the movie, but the book was excellent.
Did you like Perfect Storm?
Loved the book. And the movie was good as well. I read that book on the way home from a job.
No kidding.
Front to back in the passenger seat of the van. Yeah.
Was that better than being on a boat?
No. But we trailer our boats. And if we have an offshore job, we'll charter a big boat. But generally we work off of our trailerable boats, and we trailer around the country. So in that case, I was switching off with my partner on driving shifts between Chicago and Old Saybrook, and I read the whole book on the way back from Chicago.
Have you ever worked through a hurricane or anything like that?
No. Certainly been delayed by hurricanes, sure.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Pensacola this fall, Ida hit Florida.
That was
we were
storm.
Weathered out.
Yeah.
It didn't hit us, but we were weathered out for days.
If you printed out a map of what you do, what would a layperson like me think I was looking at? Would it be instantly something I'd say, oh, I think I know what that is?
Meaning like geographic around the world, or just or Thames River? What scale are you talking about?
Let's say the Thames River. Would I know I was looking at an aquatic? Is that something that I could figure out? Like, we were raised, I can look at a map of the U.S. and say, oh, yeah, I know that. If I look at a map of Europe, I'm like, I didn't know Austria was there.
Oh, sure.
I'm still like that. But would I know I'm looking at an aquatic body?
I don't. This context is difficult. If we gave you a multi-beam surface to look at, you would recognize that you were looking at some sort of a landform or bed form.
Okay.
You wouldn't recognize what it was as a layperson just based on the texture of the bottom or anything like that. Some of us would have a better sense of what we were looking at, whether we're looking at bedrock outcrops or we're looking at sand waves or something like that. We would be able to interpret what we're looking at, but not necessarily where.
All right.
Yeah.
So there aren't any probably, you'll go into an antique store sometimes and somebody will have a framed map from 1860s. There's probably not a lot of framed ocean maps out there.
I don't know. I have one on my wall.
Do you?
Yeah. At home, it's a nautical chart. That's a map, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we support, as do plenty of other. I mean, the government does it themselves, but they have a lot of contractors that support them. And that's all sonar-based. I mean, today it is. It's all sonar-based mapping.
Can I ask you one last question?
Sure.
When did it occur to somebody to start mapping the ocean floor? Is that a relatively recent science?
I think not. I think I don't have the right historical answer, but I got to believe it's in the days of exploration in the 1500s that people were mapping the seafloor.
How would they have gone about that?
A rock on the end of a piece of twine, I suppose,
Yeah.
and a sextant.
Yeah. So for those out there listening, no, I couldn't even have done that.
No. We've come a long way since then.
Bob, is there anything you would like folks to know about what you do that we didn't talk about?
Now I'm going to pitch. I'm going to pitch young people to come look at this kind of work, because the entire industry needs people, and I'll tell you up front and tell the listener up front, it's demanding as far as your personal life and your schedule and that sort of thing. And the physical is sometimes demanding as well. But the simplest way to say it is a cool job. You're on boats, you're working with technology, and you're seeing the world.
Not bad. Thank you, Bob.
My pleasure.
Job Description is a production of the Day Publishing Company in New London, Connecticut, and is hosted by me, Rick Coster. Peter Wappy produces and edits the show. Our theme song is Here and Now by the band Wind Up, written by Michael Clay and Ernie Myers. Can't get enough of me? I write a free weekly newsletter called The Fun Never Stops. You can subscribe at theday.com/newsletters. If you want to support this podcast, leave a rating or a review wherever you listen to, or even better, subscribe to The Day at theday.com/subscribe.